There is lots of movement in the American League East. A couple teams trying to dig themselves out of holes and a couple teams that keep digging their own graves. Welcome to 3 Up and 3 Down as we highlight 3 teams that are on the rise and 3 teams that are sinking fast in Major League Baseball. Welcome everybody. This is MetropoliFins. My name is Craig. We are YouTube's smallest New York Mets and Miami Dolphins channel. All right, for the 3 Up, first we have the Milwaukee Brewers. They are 9-1 in their last 10 games. They're still way back of the Cubs for the division lead in the National League Central, but they find themselves only a half game out of a wild card spot at this point in the season. Christian Yelich is on a bender right now with 6 home runs over the last 2 weeks, and Yelich and Chourio is a budding young star hitting .339 over his last 15 games or so. The pitching staff is full of names that you may not know, but they have been led recently by Quinn Priester and Chad Patrick. Second, we have the Baltimore Orioles. Yes, the team that everyone had left for dead. And you know what? They might still be mostly dead, but they're not quite fully dead yet. They are on a 5-game winning streak. They're 8-2 over their last 10. They still have a ton of ground to make up. They're about 8 or 9 games out of the wild card, so they are nowhere close to thinking playoffs right now by any means. But they are young and they're hungry. If they can find pitching, they can make a run. But is it too late? Are they going to have enough time to make up the ground? Ryan O'Hearn is hitting a blistering .429 over the last 2 weeks. And if for whatever reason this surge does stall out, he could become a valuable trade chip for the Orioles to retool for next year. Gunnar Henderson and Jackson Holliday are also both starting to find their way. As you see, their stats starting to get better over the last couple weeks. Dean Kramer and Tomoyuki Sugano are finally giving a bit of depth to this pitching staff. But rest assured, if they're going to make a run, it's going to involve more pitching stepping up in the weeks ahead. All right, lastly, we have the Rays and Jays. What? The Tampa Bay Rays and the Toronto Blue Jays. Am I cheating by including both of them? Well, maybe. But maybe, just maybe, these are actually the same team. First of all, their names rhyme, so that's part of it. They're both 32-29. They're both 7-3 in their last 10. They are tied for second in the American League East. Where did those Red Sox go? Stay tuned. We'll be there in just a moment. All right. Drew Rasmussen of the Rays and Kevin Gausman of the Jays. That's kind of a stretch. They're leading the respective staffs in pitching over the past month. Jonathan Aranda and Junior Caminero are stacking the hits for the Rays, and Ernie Clement and Addison Barger, speaking of twins, are both 16 for 51 with 4 doubles and matching .386 on base percentage in the last 15 days. So the coincidences there, kind of uncanny. All right, before we get to the 3 teams that are on the downswing, make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe. We're on our way to 500 subscribers, and we would absolutely appreciate your help. All right, first of all, for the 3 down, we have those prior mentioned Boston Red Sox. Look, they were many people's darling to win the American League East in the preseason. And as of right now, they have just completely flopped. They're even to the point where they're getting in fights before the game even starts, like happened with the Angels today. But can that scuffle with the Angels somehow save their season? And the walk-off home run that they had today by Cedar Rafaela? Hopefully I said that right. Probably not. Anyway, can that save their season, or are they going to be massive sellers with a whole lot of assets to get rid of at the trade deadline? The pitching bright spot for them, well, Garrett Crochet is still being Garrett Crochet. He's got a 1.91 ERA and a 1.06 whip over his last 5 starts. Their hitting bright spot, of course, is Cedar Rafaela. He hit that walk-off homer today, but it's not just been today. He's had multiple home runs over the last couple weeks and is really leading this offense, and really good to see for a young kid like that. All right, a team that I have no love lost for that is also down is the Atlanta Braves. The wheels are falling off this Braves team again. Remember, they got off to such a horrible start, and they worked all their way back to get back to one game over 500. But now they are back to 6 games under 500. They're 3-7 of their last 10 on currently a 3-game losing streak. Look, far be it from me to say that the Braves season is over, but even the Mets last year, who got off to that horrible start, were starting to turn things around by June. Time is their enemy right now. They just don't have the ability to play 500 ball. They need to get to 500 and get over 500 soon, or else they're going to be forced into the seller position at the trade deadline. The pitching bright spot for them is Chris Sale. He's 2-1 with a 1.17 ERA and a 1.07 whip over the past month. Their hitting bright spot is none other than Ronald Acuna Jr. He's been back for 11 games, and it looks like he has never left. He's hitting .341 with 3 home runs in his first 11 games back. All right, finally, our last down team is the Oakland at the Sacramento at the Philadelphia at the Athletics. Whatever. Who cares? Yeah, I know. Everyone thought they were going to be bad. I know this shouldn't be a disappointment, but honestly, with how they started the season by playing some great ball, we actually had them in the top 10 rankings early on in the season with how well they were playing. I hope you enjoyed that, A's fans, because you're probably not going to sniff the top 10 anytime soon again. Their season has gone absolutely off a cliff, over a cliff, down the cliff with a 9-game losing streak. This is entering Rockies territory. And speaking of Rockies territory, they have a minus 128 run differential, which is second worst in the MLB, ahead of only those Rockies. Look, their pitching bright spot, none. I looked at it. Look at the pitching stats. They're horrible. You can't find a starting pitcher who has an ERA under 4 right now. I tried to put in Luis Severino as an innings eater, but he's barely averaging 5 innings per start, so he's not even doing that. It is a tired staff in a minor league park and a lot of games still ahead of them. If I have to find something, Sean Newcomb, who was just called up, he's only given up 1 earned run in his first 2 relief appearances and about 4 1/3 innings pitched, I believe, since being called up. So congrats on the call up to the show, Sean Newcomb, but man, that just look at the stats. It's atrocious. It is some of the worst pitching stats I've ever seen from top to bottom, starters and relievers. The hitting bright spot, well, there's no doubt here, if you've been following this team, it is Jacob Wilson. He continues to rake with an average over 400 over the past 2 weeks. He's hitting .358 with a .904 OPS for the entire season. He is definite superstar in the making potential. And kudos to him for just putting up the numbers even when the rest of the team, it seems like they're not showing up. All right, what teams are on the rise? What teams are you missing? And what teams do you think are going to be making a splash in trades at the trade deadline? Let me know down in the comments below.